agree with what Stephen says. Let's just get on with it. And if there are a few stumbles along the way, it's going to be easier and cheaper to correct them than delaying the scheme. We've got no right to delay the scheme. Europe has had their scheme, as I said, from 2005. You've got California with their scheme designed, ready to move forward. You've got a scheme now trading since September in the northeast of the United States involving 10 states, and you've got Obama saying, I'm going to revive the US economy with reform in energy. Now, yes, the world really expects us to get on with it, and we get enormous credit internationally if we do. So first recommendation, no delay in getting the carbon pollution reduction scheme up and going, and both sides of politics ought to stand firm. Second, let's work hard, I know it's a challenge, and get avoided deforestation lodged as part of the scheme. The white paper, Organo, I'd need to check my notes to find which, really say we can take longer about that. But here's where Australia can lead. We put a clause in our scheme that gives credits, offsets for avoided deforestation over and above normal conservation activity, recognising, monitoring, measuring the carbon sequestered in land that would otherwise be cleared in a way that would release that carbon into the upper atmosphere. And second, internationally, at Copenhagen, we argue passionately for avoided deforestation being part of the new world agreement. It's not in Kyoto at the present time. You've got many initiatives involving saving habitats in Kalimantan, Papua New Guinea, Brazil. It's going to be a hard one. There are a lot of difficulties in monitoring and guaranteeing the forest is going to be there for 100 years. It won't be illegally logged. There won't be fires. And above all, measuring that principle of additionality. It's forest that's saved over and above what would be saved anyway. But there's a second practical proposal for Australia. Third, the Garneau report recommends that we have a set price for carbon for an interim period, Stephen, of I think 3 years. I disagree with that. I think we should go to the market straight away. I declare an interest. I'm chairing a little company called Envex, which will develop carbon products for an emerging market in Sydney, the financial and energy exchange. And the argument I would advance is this. If you let the market determine it, instead of that set price proposed by Garneau at $20 a unit of carbon, you could find the price falls to $7. Let the market determine it. Let the market shape this. Let's get into a carbon market sooner rather than later and not experiment with something that is effectively a carbon tax. There are people ready to trade. And it's not going to be a big adjustment. The adjustment here is less than the GST. The cost of this over 20 years is less than a couple of years of bad drought. There have been 4 or 5 studies that say we can get to 2020 and achieve decent reductions. We can debate later what they should be. We can have an emissions trading scheme and not load serious costs onto the Australian economy. The Treasury modelling is superb and very encouraging. The fourth practical proposal is we get Bill Clinton out here and say to him, you've got agreements with 70 cities in the US for the retrofit of old building stock. It's a financial model. The banks lend money. The owners of the building get the loan. With that loan, they retrofit their building. They service the loan by the savings on their energy bills. These old buildings in Sydney are profligate in the way they burn up carbon. The shocking I'm in a building from the 1960s. Its air conditioning is shocking. The upgrading of our old building stock, according to some calculations, gets us, 50%, 60% towards our 20% reduction by 2020. So, ladies and gentlemen, I started with a depressing prospect, namely that global warming could just be one part of the shocks waiting to hit the 9 billion human beings who will cling to this planet by 2050. There are hopeful signs as well. All of you cheered that speech in Grant Park a few weeks ago. Even those of you, I'm sure, Prue on the Conservative side of politics. It was a message of hope and change from the President-elect of the United States. And all of a sudden, things that we never dreamt of are on the US agenda, like upgrading the entire electricity network of the United States, rebuilding, regrowing the US economy by tackling energy reform, energy independence and climate change. That's a message of hope, and Australia ought to be there with Barack Obama leading the world, a beacon of light to the world. Thank you.